Alright, today we're going to get into 7.5, which is over factoring the form x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so this is kind of from like when we did FOIL, but now it's kind of doing it backwards. So, let's review FOIL real quick. Just remember FOIL stood for first, outer, inner, last. So like they would give us something like this, x plus 3 times x plus 4. We would FOIL it, get this, combine like terms, and get that, x squared plus 7x plus 12. Note, the coefficients of the middle term, 7x, is the sum of 3 and 4, which is what we knew, because 3 plus 4, that is how we got 7. The last term, 12, is the product of 3 and 4. So sum is addition, product is multiplication. That's an important note to remember because that's how we're going to, or that's the information or the way we're going to go from this to that. So in this form, we're going to take this and work it out backwards to get back to before we would have FOIL. So that's what we're going to be doing in this section. The steps to doing that are right here. So these are your steps to factoring x squared plus bx plus c. First, make a list of the factors of c, the last number. So you'll have your last number and you're going to make a list of the factors of the numbers that multiply to be that number. Then you make a list of the sums of the factors. So then we're going to add those factors up and see what their sums are. Then you choose the factors that have the sum matching b, the middle coefficient, which in this case, like I said, is b. So those steps will make more sense as we look at examples, but let's go ahead and jump straight in to these. So the first examples we'll look at are when b and c are both positive. None of these are too difficult, but this is very straightforward when b and c are both positive. So the first one we have x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay, so what it said to do first was I'm going to make a t-chart with the factors of c, or in this case, factors of 20, because 20 is your last number, it's your c, so I'm going to make factors of 20. So, two numbers that multiply together to be 20. We have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, and I think that would be it. So, those are your factors of 20. So then, after that, step 2 was to add your factors. So, the sum of 1 and 20, 21, 2 and 10, 12, 4 and 5, 9. So, what you're doing then is looking to see which sum matches your b. Here, the sum that matches my b is the sum of 4 and 5. So that means these will be the factors that I use, and they're going to be in this form. X plus, X plus. And then we're just plugging these numbers in to this form. So my answer to this would be x plus 4 and x plus 5. So that would be your final answer. This, if you were to FOIL this out, you would get this. So we just worked that backwards to where we had this, and we did it backwards to that. So that would be your final answer. So we do the same thing for the second one. U squared plus 11u plus 28. Alright, so we're going to make a factor first. Factors of my c, factors of 28. And as you start doing these more, you really don't even have to, a lot of people, as they go on, don't even have to make the table. They can just look at it and see what the factors are that multiply to be this, but add to be this. But it's a good habit to get into making the table just to organize your thoughts. So, factors of 28. 1 and 28. 2 and 14. Let's see, 4 and 7. So we add those up. 1 plus 28, 29. 2 plus 14, 16. 4 plus 7, 11. And as you'll see, 11 is my middle term, or middle coefficient, and that matches my factors of 4 and 7. So my final answer here would be u plus 4 and u plus 7. So there is your final answer. You're just looking to figure out what factors of 28 add together to be 11, and that was 4 and 7, so they go in that form. All right, so next, what if we have b positive and c, or b negative and c positive? So you want to think about this one a little bit. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 12. So here we're still doing factors of 12. So factors of 12. And then we're going to add them up and see. But here, my middle term is negative 8. So for us to be able to have factors that multiply to be 12, but add to be negative 8, you have to think, what types of numbers would you need? So first of all, if we're multiplying to be a positive number, there's two ways you can multiply to be a positive number. You can multiply two positives, or you can multiply two negatives. So in this case, if we have a positive c but a negative b, that means your factors are going to have to both be negative, because you want them to both, the two negatives make a positive when you multiply, but two negatives when you add just make a bigger negative. So you're going to have two negatives for these factors. So factors of positive 12 will be negative 1, negative 12, negative 2, negative 6, negative 3, negative 4. Those are all factors of positive 12 that will add to be a negative number. So then we add them up. Negative 1 plus negative 12, negative 13. Negative 2 plus negative 6, negative 8. Negative 3 plus negative 4, negative 7. So now we look, the one that matches the middle term, negative 8, are these two factors, negative 2 and negative 6. So I plug them in the form x. So this one is x minus 2, and this one is x minus 6. So I'm just taking those factors and plugging them in like this. So there is my final answer, x minus 2, x minus 6. Let's look at the second one. P squared minus 5p plus 6. Factors of 6 and their sums. So we have a positive c and a negative b, so we know that should tell us that both factors have to be negative. So factors of 6, negative 1, negative 6, negative 2, negative 3. So when I add these up, negative 1 plus negative 6 is negative 7, negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. So you just look and see that negative 5 is my b. That matches these factors. So my answer would be p minus 2 and p minus 3. So very straightforward on that as well. So just making sure you recognize when c is positive, b is negative, you need two negative factors. All right, then the last one, if c is negative. So first example, x squared plus 2x minus 15. So pretty straightforward as far as c is negatives, because if you are finding the factors of negative 15, or any negative number, you know if you're multiplying to get a negative number, you need a positive and a negative. So you always need a positive and a negative if you're multiplying to get a negative. But that comes into now, you have to pay attention to the middle term, depending on if it is positive or negative. So my middle term here is positive. So if I know I'm multiplying a positive and a negative, but my middle term when they add needs to be positive, that should tell you of your positive and negative number, the positive number needs to be the larger number, excuse me. So for example, let me explain what I mean by that. Some factors of negative 15 would be 1 and negative 15, or negative 15 and 1. But we need the number to be positive when we add. So the larger number needs to be the positive number. So it would be negative 1 and positive 15. Some other factors would be 3 and 5, but we need the larger number to be the positive one, so it would be negative 3 and 5. Okay, so negative 1 plus 15 is 14. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. So as you see, 2 is my middle term, so that means these are the factors I will be using. So it would be x minus 3 and x plus 5. So there's your final answer for that. All right, let's look at the next one. U squared minus u minus 2. Okay, so u squared minus u minus 2. So we need to find factors of negative 2, and they have to add to be negative 1, because there's a negative invisible 1 there. So they have to add to be negative 1. So here it's the opposite. We still need a positive and a negative to be factors, but the larger number has to be negative in this case. So there's obviously only one factor of negative 2. But for example, let me show you more what I mean by that. Negative 1 and 2, or negative 2 and 1. Those both multiply to be negative 2. But we knew that it had to be a negative when we added, so right off the bat, this should go away because we know that the larger number has to be the negative number, which is this. So that goes away because when you add those, you only get positive 1. But negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, and that's what we need, is a negative number when we add. So that means we're using these for my factors, so it'd be u minus 2 and u plus 1. So that would be your final answer. Okay? So, one other note, if the polynomial cannot be factored, it is considered prime. So if you work through it and you find your factors but no factors add up to be this middle term, it's prime. That is your answer, prime. That's all that you would put if that is ever the case. So here's 3 of them for you to do on your own. So think about the different types that we went through. Pause this video, go through the different types, and try these on your own. So hopefully you had a chance to do this on your own. So let's go through these together. So first one, B and C are both positive. So this one's pretty straightforward. This one's you don't have to worry about anything. You're just finding the factors of that. They'll both be positive numbers, and they have to add to be that. So factors of 24, 1 and 24, 2 and 12. Let's see, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So that one has a lot of them. But then we add them up. 1 plus 24 is 25. 2 plus 12, 14. 3 plus 8, 11. 4 plus 6, 10. So let me look and see which sum matches my middle term, which middle term's 11, here's 11, so there are your factors. So final answer, x plus 3, x plus 8. So that's your final answer for that one. Second one, we have w squared minus 11w plus 28. So here we have a negative b, but a positive c. That should tell you right off the bat that you are going to need, so let me write this down real quick, factors of 28 and their sums. Negative b, positive c tells you you need two negative numbers for your factors. So factors of 28, negative 1, negative 28. Negative 2, negative 14. Negative 4, negative 7. Okay, then we add those up. Negative 29, negative 16, negative 11. And then you'll see that your middle term is negative 11. Here's negative 11. So those two factors multiply, negative 4 and negative 7 multiply to be positive 28, but they add to be negative 11. So it fits the test. So it would be w minus 4, w minus 7. There's your final answer. All right, last one. We have y squared minus 5y minus 14. All right, so we have a negative c, so we know the factors. One will be positive, one will be negative. But if one's positive, one's negative, this middle term being negative tells me that the larger term has to be the negative one. So, numbers that multiply to be negative 14 would be 1 in negative 14, 2 in negative 7, that would actually be it. That's all your terms that multiply to be negative 14. So then we add them together. 1 in negative 14 is negative 13, 2 in negative 7 is negative 5, and that matches my middle term, so there is your factors. So final answer, y plus 2, y minus 7. So like I said, just following the patterns, making sure you're looking for which factors of c, which numbers multiply to be c, but add to be your b, and those are your two terms that you plug into your pre-FOIL binomials. So we have two binomials where you use the factors you came up with to plug straight into that. Thanks.